Hola. This vlog will have to be a two-parter because I have to confess I have not finished reading this book, even though I bought it maybe like 2 years ago or something. Let me see when it was published. I'm on page 24. I'm actually like on page 50. It's like 100 pages or less. It is 150 pages and it's a really small book. Considerable margins and like page breaks and let me see if I can find one. There's also images. It's it's not a huge book. It says novela, but I would say it's like a in English the novella, like it's not a novel, it's a novella. It's short. Um, and I have not finished reading it because I have commitment issues. I don't know. Like I said, I bought it like maybe 2 3 years ago. I could maybe find the picture. Yeah, it was finished printing August 2024, and I think I bought it like October 2024 or something. Um, yeah, I bought it at the Feria Internacional del Libro in Monterrey. And I think I saw it in Osa Menor's uh, stand at the book fair. It's titled Macedonio, una novela algorítmica by Pierre Herrera. I don't think this has been translated yet, but I probably will be able to find a. I think there's at least a fragment of the start of this novel available on the author's website that I'll link to if I can find it, if it's still available. I remember it being, and I remember it having like slight differences between the published version and the independently published and this one in collaboration with Osa Menor. Osa Menor is a Mexican editorial that I wish I could find where I read that, or maybe they just told me it. They might have just told me it, but yeah, um, it's a editorial that specializes in like novel or like um, mm, what's the word, like special or weird formatting and weird concepts, and I was really drawn to, their covers are cool, their formats. They have like a weird book that's like long and short and has a bunch of illustrations. So they're clearly not afraid to experiment and to let their authors experiment and bring new and interesting concepts. The reason why this I will finish it, and the reason why it's been on my mind, and the reason why I wanted to make this blog, was that recently I just watched, recently as in a minute ago, I just finished watching a review by Frankie from Frankie's bookshelf, Frankie's shelf, Frankie, Frankie, el youtuber, Frankie booktuber, Francisco librero, about Shy Girl. Shy Girl by Mia Ballard. What y'all know about Mia Ballard? Has been accused of being a novel written with the assistance of generative AI or language learning models. This book is also written with the assistance of generative AI or language learning models. It tells you from the beginning in the title a algorithmic novel, and also in the little synopsis on the back, which is not really a synopsis. It just says e, 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 e. I'm translating roughly. This is a novel about dolphins, an algorithmic novel about dolphins and iridescent dreams. It is also a love letter to 3D models. This is a love novel written with an algorithm. This author is many. The author is many. A murmur. This is trying to mimic like dolphin sounds. Yes, a metaphysic over metaphysic work. A metaphysic work. A hacker's manifesto. About cute lovers and the Sasquatch and Chinese poetry. About neons that illuminate a tunnel that um, goes through the night. The mouse flickers. It's time. Wake up now. Oh, I have to leave. It's time. Wake up now, tells me one of the dolphins. This is a novel about the faith in literature. It is a shared dream. So it's obviously an experiment about what it's like to write with the help of an AI. And you can find at the very end a um, nota a la edición, or notes, author's note, basically. Um, and just for context, and I know I'm not making a lot of sense, this is why this is only part one. I'll come back with formed thoughts, and I promise I'll take notes. Pierre Herrera is a textual artist and editor, part of the Broken English.lol collective. He was born in Morelia, Michoacán, and he has published Ex Yugoslavia 2021, Elizondo en China 2021, El Libro Más Hermoso 2021, Fuego Cruzado 2020, El Aleph para Máquinas 2019, which actually sounds very interesting. I don't know if any Jorge Luis Borges fans. El Aleph, great. I think it's the title of the short story collection and also the title of one of the short stories in that collection. Love Borges, El Aleph, para Máquinas, which I assume is something like similar to this. I think also in El Aleph is where you can find La Librería de Babel, or the one where it's like every book has already been written, like it's just a collection of all the different permutations of works. Which I'll also link to. There's a cool like website that simulates what the Library of Babel would be like. Pero ¿quién es el soñador? 2018, Objetos no identificados 2017, Dafen, Dientes falsos 2017, etc. He does other stuff. And I want to read the Nota la Edición, again, in a very broken translation, just so you understand how this author approached using AI in his work and AI creatively, because as somebody who, for context, I am a software engineer, I work with AI like daily, basically, not only because I'm correcting the errors of AI, but because I want to learn about it and I want to create a artificial intelligence model, because it is a cool thing to do in an engineering sense. Knowing the limitations of trying to build a model, a artificial intelligence model, and knowing how cool yet young of a technology it is at this moment, I think I have a realistic perspective of how much AI could not write a book that would be interesting and worthy of reading. And there's evidence out there with Mia Ballard's Shy Girl and many other, I'm sure, self-published works that have recently, in the past few years, with the boom of ChatGPT and other uh, large language models and generative AI, have become popular. I hope I'm making sense here. Um, the, Probably only the shelf will read the will watch this. I'm already 9 minutes in, and I feel like I've said nothing. But anyway, this author, although he uses AI and he does um, use it, I think he has original ideas, and I think it is worthwhile, comparing. I did not read, and I probably will not read, Shy Girl by Mia Ballard, because I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's a good book from listening to reviews and reading stuff online about it. But this book, I would recommend you read it, if you can find it, Osa Menor, and check out the link if I can find the intro to the book online. But like I said, let me read you this nota la edición, author's note, in my shitty, broken, translated Spanish to English. I thought of calling Macedonio, or, subtitling it, an evocation, a love novel, a digital dream, anarchist scenes for the 21st century, the first novel about dolphins for dolphins, because that's all it is. It is all that. It is also an essay or a exercise in writing. Maybe my most adventurous question about conceptualism, creativity, its limits, its artistic margins in times of algorithms or generative algorithms, in the time of generative algorithms. The other question, how did I write this novel? We would have to put another question before that. Who wrote this novel? In 2019, I found a web page that had a generative algorithm of English text. It said that its database was Blogspot and other forums. You needed to input a starting sentence, move around certain commands, and this algorithm would, parting from the original sentence, write something. With this big idea, I started inputting phrases. I started saving the results and using the fragments that AI had created as new starting prompts. The result were 99 fragments in English that afterwards I dedicated years to translate to Spanish. This translation really meant a rewriting to make them sound good in my native tongue. With this tradition and my readings, uh, even though the even though my main objective was to maintain a dialogue between what was written with AI and its imagination. This is only 2 pages. You won't have to survive through all of this. This novel is a is cyber writing. This novel is cyber writing. In its authorship, so much human as it is artificial, creative and not creative. It is a shared dream. The creation of this novel braided my imagination with the deployment of AI. It it came of combining and expanding the imagination of millions of people that were writing on the internet in those past forums, places where, without a doubt, years before we all learned to write. This all made me think about the other side of the idea about authorship, what it means that name and figure of an author or woman author, autor o autora, and the place of his or her books or their books in this equation. But it's also the place of readings and that all people make possible that people write. um, this is so bad. I'll try to do it better. Uh, the place of readers and how they make it possible for one to write, to be a writer. Um, that books exist as objects in the world with all the love and all the love, cariño y amor. Um, so my name does appear in the cover, as I am the author of the book, but that's because I have ceased to be me. Now, me, more exactly, is a node of affix. That my name is an evocation. I dedicate this book to all the people that I've made community with on the internet and outside the internet. Ciudad de México, 31 de mayo 2024. So, just from that author's note, which I will have to translate better, maybe with the help of an actual, translator or Google Translate, at least, because I just read that off the top of my head and I feel so my head hurts. Um, this author basically found a burgeoning, a young language generative model based on Blogspot and forums throughout the internet, and started playing along with it. He started putting, sentences into it. That's the human part. That's the thing that I think many people who use generative AI fail to either like internalize or comprehend or understand. Just basically, generative AI by itself does nothing. It is just an algorithm and a set of nodes and neural networks that will stay there inert, or maybe just running, idly, while nobody interacts with them. They won't produce anything. And that's also the argument a lot of people who are pro AI art give. They're like, well, I made the prompt, I engineered the prompt, therefore this is a piece of art. And I would like to say they are kind of right in the way that, yes, you can make art from AI, but I don't think AI itself can make the art. And this is why Pierre Herrera, I think, uh, did a really interesting thing and a really interesting experiment with Macedonio, which I would love to give my final thoughts on if I had read more than half of it. Which I will. I simply am insane in the head and cannot finish a book on a normal timeline unless I'm being like hounded by dogs or something, and even then probably won't. But this does not read like it was written by a machine. It does read like it has been written with input, or output rather, from a machine, because um it explicitly tells you so. And so you're looking for those places, you're looking for the things that repeat, and the formulas and the ways it uses, but they're as much part of the algorithm that Pierre Herrera used as they are part of Pierre Herrera's writing, if that makes sense. um I was really drawn to this book because, of course, the algorithm part of it, but as a story, it has a good story. It tells the story of two people who meet on, I think they meet in real life, and then they have another, like, parallel friendship on the internet. It also starts with a quote from Bad Bunny, which I think is awesome. Hoy voy a darle paz a mi corazón, por eso me perdí. Bad Bunny. Um, but yeah, let me just find. Yeah, it's between Molly and like the main character. You can There's a picture of Molly even. It talks about like South American anarchists, America Scarfo. It's not only made with an AI. Like he didn't just give it a prompt and then say, "Give me a novel about this." It was a process of seeing what AI could, come up with, what this algorithm was outputting from basically mixing up and grabbing the important parts of conversations from forums and blogs, internet blogs, and making something new out of that. And it's sort of like fridge magnet poetry. um, and from that fridge magnet poetry, the author went and reorganized it, rewrote it, and also translated it, which is what I think gives it a more human dimension. The fact that it's not copy pasted from what was written in English, it is translated to Spanish, and translation in itself is a transformation of work. Somebody more intelligent than me and who has actually read learned about literature will probably say something more intelligent, but that's basically what I'm trying to communicate. And I would also like to find the fun parts that this does with formatting, like I said, not just including pictures, which is normal. Here's also more pictures. Here's the Sasquatch, uh, numbers, arrays, errors, stack trace, column null, error ID, fatal error tile. You know, why is it written in JavaScript? That's so interesting to me. Um, it's it's so cool. I'm pretty sure there's one page that is like fully JavaScript. There's emojis. Like, you can tell there's been a human component to this and human thought, even though it's been done like algorithmically. There's pictures. um there's real artistry behind this, and one of my favorite part is that you can read what the dolphins are saying with that ee, which is really cute. uh Things with formats here, like this Xiao Shuo is a anarchist virus. um we can define a virus as A, C, D, E. Why are we missing the B? Was that the AI, or was that Pierre trying to be, cheeky? um, I'm just rambling at this point. I would love to find the part where it's code, but I think that was a Sasquatch page. Uh, 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 um, yeah, pretty sure it was the Sasquatch page. This is the page where there's code. Um, but yeah, I thought it like started. It made me like it made me start thinking about, can you write with code? As somebody who is a native Spanish speaker, um, there's a difference between lengua and lenguaje. For example, una lengua is an idioma. It's a language that is spoken, has rules or signed. Um, ASL is a language. English is a language. Mm, fucking now is a language. Chinese is a language. But a lenguaje is just a ability all humans have. Um, for example, like uh, non-verbal and verbal, a non-verbal language is lenguaje corporal or lenguaje no verbal. It's not quite a idioma. It's not a like a human language. It's just an ability we have as human beings. And so there's a difference between lengua and lenguaje, as in lenguaje de programación. In English, you just say programming language and like a spoken language or a human language, and then you say programming language. But in Spanish, there's a lenguaje de programación, so it's not quite una lengua. It's not quite an idioma. And there was once like a poll that I saw on Tumblr that was like, if you're a coder, do you think of learning a programming language the same way as learning like some other language, like French, Greek, whatever? And it was interesting to me how US Americans would say, yes, to me is like learning another language. And to me, as somebody who sees it as a lenguaje de programación and not as a lengua or idioma, to me, a programming language is not a language. It is a programming language. It's a different thing. It's coding, a way we encode words so computers can understand us. Where is my rant going? My point was that it made me think, what's the difference between a language and a programming language, and could you ever write something that is comprehensible as a story in the format of a programming language? And I think this novel is a fun exploration of yes and kind of no, and it has its limitations, and you could. And um, online, there's a bunch of creative programming artists you can find, people who take technology and really push it to its limits to create something new, even if it isn't like fully functional or like engineerily sound. It's something. And look up live coding, look up bunch of uh, a bunch of creative coding practices, and I think it really reminds me of this book and the things that one could really do if we use AI to, it's I don't want to say to its full extent, but if we used it more ethically, thoughtfully, and not just to write the parts of a novel you don't want to write, like the 100 different similes that are all shit, or 144 or whatever uh, instances of the word sharp in a novel. Um, yeah. So to end this ramble that I am calling a vlog and making all the people in the shelf watch, um, I'll finish reading this book. It is written with AI, the outputs, 99 outputs of an old language model found on the internet by Pierre Herrera, and then translated to Spanish and then made into a novel. I think it is more interesting than Shy Girl. I think y'all should check it out. I'm gonna link the editorial and the author's information. Thank you. Bye.